All right, good morning. Give everybody a live view right here from 6th and Olive. If you recall yesterday, when we were live right here on 6th and Olive, it was total chaos. The cars that were on fire yesterday have been removed, and we see that people have come out this morning, like we see in a lot of cities across America, and they're cleaning up. So, you know, all throughout the downtown corridor here, there's people that are removing graffiti off of the buildings. They're also boarding up windows. You know, Verizon got kicked in, Evergreen's got kicked in. Of course, everybody saw Nordstrom's yesterday. And so today it's a big effort out here where people have taken to the streets to remove graffiti from off the walls of everything else. So as we're moving southbound on 6th Avenue, and like I said, we see a lot of people out here on the streets doing cleanup efforts. I'm gonna go across the street because it was this window right here. Yesterday, it was this window right here where we saw all the looters coming out of Nordstrom's, out of this window right here. And this was where the police cars were on fire yesterday. And the police cars were on fire. And this is actually the car right here. There was a police cruiser right here where the AK or the AR-15 or whatever the rifle was, that's what got stolen right here. And actually, we were on the scene when the undercover police came out the crowd and stopped them from stealing more guns out of the police cruiser. So as we sit here on 6th Avenue, we see there's a lot of cleanup going on. People got out here early, trying to board up and clean up. It brings up a scenario for later on tonight, as we know that the Anarchy group is planning, basically more violence. I think it's very clear, though, especially with this group, that the people who came to tear things up in downtown Seattle had nothing to do with an actual peaceful protest. You know, I mean, an opportunity was taken here to literally destroy. So we're gonna walk further up here. So downtown Seattle this morning is full of either construction people that are boarding up buildings. You have people who've come out and are getting graffiti off of buildings. This is Pacific Place. Pacific Place got hit on several sides last night. And to be honest with you, this intersection here of 6th and Olive down to 5th and Olive was the flashpoint of what started everything last night. So again, this is downtown right now. We see a lot of people on the streets that are all here basically doing cleanup. It was funky down here last night all the way until close to midnight, where the police were playing cat and mouse with a smaller group of protesters. At that time, there was still a deployment of flashbangs and some everything else. Now, we reported live yesterday when the T-Mobile store right over there actually got broken into, which was a crazy scene in itself. But what we saw last night was just that for the most part, I think the SPD just got overran or outmaneuvered by a lot of these young people that were out here. I mean, we sat in here for 5 hours yesterday, and I can't tell you the amount of tear gas that we ate down here, but they had a hard time yesterday keeping things under control. And like I said, 6th and Olive to 5th and Olive was the flashpoint. That's where it all broke down. And so just recapping from yesterday, and I'll put the Nordstrom's here on the street. Nordstrom's is where we were at when we witnessed them first go into the Nordstrom window over there and then into the E-bar. And it just kind of went on from there. There was 4 police cruisers on fire right there at the time. And we also witnessed guys run into the back of the police cruiser and steal the rifles right over there. So it's a different scene this morning here in downtown Seattle, where you see a lot of people have come out and We've seen this all across America, but especially in true Seattle fashion, people are out here literally taking it to the streets to clean up downtown. Now, there's T-Mobile over here. T-Mobile got hit hard yesterday, and I don't know who has aerial footage of this, but it was crazy because a lot of what we saw was that there would be a police line on an intersection, and a lot of these people who broke these windows were less than 30 or 40 feet from the actual police line, which was right there on 6th and Olive. As you move further south on 6th Avenue, coming over here to BECU, to the Fidelity Building again, people have come out to clear graffiti. We've got quite a lot of people that are out here boarding up windows. One of the issues is that the anarchists are claiming that they're coming back out tonight. We saw with Nordstrom, they didn't have a problem taking wood off of the windows. And actually, yesterday, we saw a lot of these anarchists with drills. So they were undrilling wood. So let's be hopeful that the wood that's being put up here today will stay on the windows and it won't get off the windows. Good morning. What brought you out here, man?
Anger.
Anger?
You know,
I'll pull down. I'll scoot back.
You know, the reason we were down here wasn't that.
Right, it was peace.
It was peace. And then when people take over for their own well-being, for their selfishness, it's ridiculous. You know, we need to stand up and this is not what's meant. Brother Floyd never wanted this to happen.
Right.
You know?
Now I was here for the last 2 days. We've been covering this. Friday night there was definitely some rioting, mostly in the International District, and they got a lot of property damage there. And we were here yesterday, and the crazy scene was right there at Westlake Park. It was an event that started peacefully and left peacefully.
Right.
And I think for a lot of people in America who where a lot of protests where everybody joined together, it was very clear here in Seattle. Very clear. You could see the peaceful protesters came and left, and the people on the other side clearly came here
to fight.
Right.
For me, the media didn't show that part of Westlake, right? They didn't show that. They showed the violence and the ignorance that people are doing. But today, this is beautiful.
Right.
People coming out supporting the city, trying to, beautify it again, taking all the graffiti off. That's what this is about. It's a shame it had to come to this, that we had to have violence and ignorance to do this. But this is what Seattle's about, coming together as a community. That's what I like about it.
Right. Now, I also notice you have a Black Lives Matter hat on, which also puts some context maybe to this conversation. Because, on the news we saw lots of people, they're wearing Black Lives Matter, but, they're kicking in windows and this and that. And maybe you can speak to that. Black Lives Matter isn't necessarily associated with anarchy and breaking windows.
It's about our civil rights. We've been going through this for years. And we just want our basic human rights met. Where we go through this every day. I have to tell my kids at the school I work at, my boys, when you're walking on black, driving around black, talking on black, you have to be worried about your life. And we shouldn't have to go through this in 2020. This is ridiculous, bro. I've been working at my school for over 30 years. We have boys groups and rising suns. We talk about our African history. We talk about all the good stuff we do. And then we turn around and see stuff like this. We can't be trusted. I can't even drive down the street. I'm afraid when I see a police behind me, I sit up and grab the steering wheel because I'm afraid for my life. And we have to tell our boys that, our sons that. White people don't have to do that. They don't have to tell themselves.
Right. What was your name, sir?
Gerald Donaldson.
And you mentioned the school. What school is that?
Leschi Elementary School.
You're at Leschi, okay. Yeah, my daughter is attended a Leschi. I'm from 29th and Jackson in the Central District. And like I said, it was important for us yesterday. I've been documenting this for the last 2 days for people to know, and especially in our community, is that nobody in our community here in Seattle called for this. There's not one person you can find on record, not one preacher, not one community organization, not one community leader that called for either people in our community, the black community, to come down and participate in this. And even yesterday at the rally, it was a call for this isn't our issue. Our issue, I think a lot of people are saying, is register to vote. Make sure you fill out your census. Our issue isn't really tearing up anything, destroying things in downtown Seattle, and literally stealing the thunder from people who wanted to peacefully protest and bring awareness to issues.
And that's selfishness. People want to do something for their own good versus what the cause really is about. That's what we got to stand up for, because the people I know came out here peacefully. And there's still, there's other marches coming up. We just need to make sure that the focus is on the peace of what we're here to do. That's the main thing, is make sure we just rally around each other and say, this nonsense has to stop. It has to. This here is ridiculous, man. People are taking advantage of the system what's going on now, and they're getting away from what's really bothering us as a nation, as a people.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you down here cleaning up. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to look you up. Send this to you.
What's your daughter's name?
Acacia Salisbury.
How old is she?
She's 22 now.
I bet she was there.
I know.
All right.
So as we heard from the gentleman there, who's actually a teacher at Leschi Elementary, who's down here today cleaning up for him, and you saw that he was wearing a Black Lives Matter hat and kind of giving a different perspective here. That the protest yesterday, the peaceful protest yesterday, it started and it ended peacefully. And we see this down here, this downtown. It's heavy down here today. Unfortunately, though, you've got a group of people who caused a lot of destruction yesterday who are also down here right now because they're mixed in. They're hard to identify. But so this was Eileen Fisher, and what we witnessed right here at Eileen Fisher, and especially over at Old Navy, is the original people who broke the glass. They didn't even come here to loot anything. They just wanted to destroy everything. Old Navy was a perfect example. We got the footage yesterday where they threw all the clothing out of Old Navy onto the sidewalk. It was onto the sidewalk there yesterday and then set on fire. So if we move further now, we're moving in a westerly direction on Pine Street, and we're getting ready to come across where the flashpoint was yesterday. Here's Old Navy, and like I said yesterday, they came and they broke this window yesterday, and they dragged the clothes. If you guys remember, they dragged all the clothes out of Old Navy and put them right here. And a lot of the clothes, they still remain. You see what I'm saying? The clothes still remain over here. The point being that a lot of the people who came here, it would be disingenuous to even say that the looters broke the windows. These guys, the anarchy group, 100%, we saw them break the windows. We saw them pull the clothes out. They weren't even trying to take the clothes. They came to destroy. So, what people need to understand is this was a well-organized, systemic plan. It was a well-organized plan to cause chaos in downtown Seattle and really do a disservice to people who wanted to protest peacefully here. Now, as we come up to this intersection right here, this is 5th and Pine. This was the flashpoint yesterday. And what we had going on is that, in retrospect, yesterday, I was like, well, the police, their position, we called out their position yesterday, but looking at it here today, I want to reevaluate what I said. So now yesterday, the SPD had blocked this intersection, 5th and Pine, and right over there, the other intersection. And what happened was, and the peaceful protesters were there, kind of where you can see some dump trucks there in the background, was where the peaceful protest was. And so on all three sides of the peaceful protest were basically the anarchists, other people too. But this was the flashpoint. And what we saw here yesterday was SPD had to give up their position right here. They were outnumbered on every side. And I don't know, they might have a different explanation. But once the position was gave up, all chaos broke loose. Right over there by the Nordstrom awning is where we saw the car that got on fire, and things kind of went downhill from there. Again, this is 5th Avenue, and as we move up 5th Avenue here, this is the Gap. As we move up 5th Avenue here, again, we see it's a lot of people out doing their part to clean up. It's a mix of all kinds of different people that are here. Some are store employees, some are just volunteers. We see a lot of different stuff being boarded up, and graffiti being removed off the building. If you recall yesterday, this was a very tight corridor in here, and this allowed a lot of the anarchists, I don't even call them protesters, a lot of the anarchists to kind of run freely through here. But I mean, this morning we see the flip side of Seattle, and probably think that one of the things that makes our city great is that people have come out in numbers here to try to literally pick up the pieces. So we're gonna head back here on 5th, now northbound, and head over by Westlake. And so we're hopeful here that that today there's a better plan to try to contain this violence. And what's unfortunate is that the violent element who came here 100% to tear things up is again co-opted a peaceful message. And if you attended the protest yesterday, or if you heard any of the audio from the protest yesterday, the peaceful protest put on by the black community, by the way, was that don't get distracted. You know, don't get distracted. Meaning that tearing up downtown Seattle is not our issue for black people in Seattle. Registering to vote is 100% our issue that we need to address. The census, we need to address. You know, gentrification, we need to address. The household earning here, we need to address. The education gap, we need to address. And so if we get distracted down here thinking that other people, the majority who are not residents of Seattle, who came down here to try to destroy downtown Seattle, we see here that it's temporary. You know, windows are being boarded up or fixed. Graffiti is being erased. So, yeah, they caught the headlines for a day. Who knows, they might be back tonight. But for people in our community, you know, this is just a blip on the radar that really didn't involve us, to be honest with you. But man, we can't let these guys' actions deter us from what needs to occur. So now, here's one place that don't really need to be cleaned up. There's a little bit of graffiti over there, but I want to point this out. This yesterday was where the peaceful protest occurred. This was the peaceful protest. Westlake Park was full. It started peacefully and it ended peacefully. And it also ended at 5 o'clock. And they ended abruptly there, make sure it ended at 5 o'clock so all the peaceful protesters could leave downtown. So anybody who remained downtown, it was very clear that they were not part of this peaceful protest that was organized by our community leaders. Here's the park right here. So we'll see what happens today. Like I said, the anarchy group, I don't think it's even fair to call them protesters. They're clearly, you know, organized anarchists who came here to co-opt, you know, the peaceful protest. They're claiming they're gonna come back out tonight, and I'll be honest with you, for 2 nights in a row, they've had it their way. You know, Friday night, we saw this same group, ACAB or ABAC, we saw this same group on Friday night, you know, wreak havoc down in the International District. And they did whatever they wanted in the International District. And I'll be honest with you, last night, for the most part, they did whatever they wanted here in downtown Seattle. And again, every time these anarchists destroy something in our city, and we're seeing a lot of cities across America where they're doing the same thing, you know, it's taking, they're basically trying to co-opt what we're doing. And I'll be honest with you, sitting here for 2 days covering these protests, what I've seen is there's so many people from outside of Seattle, so many people maybe from even outside of our state, and you hear them and they're organizing people. You go over there, you do this, you go do that. We're gonna go hit this block, we're gonna do whatever. So this wasn't random last night. This wasn't random violence at all that was down here. This was organized. You know what I'm saying? And we see the end result. But again, I mean, if there's a story down here this morning, the story would be that downtown Seattle is right now full of people who are literally trying to put the pieces back together. What I will say is, because it's Sunday here, all the peaceful protests have ended. The anarchists said they're coming back on the streets. I would have an expectation that the Seattle police would probably have a higher level of force this evening. So we'll see what happens. But Seattle got hit, man. And last night all the way up until midnight, you could hear the flashbangs. There was tear gas heavy in the streets. Yeah. I'm going to go back over here to Eileen Fisher because they lost a lot of glass. And I know people might be watching this and they're like, well, man, you know, these guys, their stuff got tore up, so what? You know what I'm saying? First of all, the fact that you're saying that and you're not focused on our real issue and real protest is crazy. But second of all, the reason why I want to show this is that I used to be a small business owner with a business in downtown Seattle. I used to have a business right there in the U.S. Bank building. So if you watch this, you're like, good, I'm glad they tore something up. Man, these things also impact regular people. You know, and the second thing is the act of violence and destruction that occurred yesterday is now what everybody's talking about, including me. Instead of the peaceful protests where people came out to want to be able to bring awareness to the actual issues. And so, you know, and I get some comments as we've been filing reports and going live, and it's like what people don't understand. This isn't the protesters against the treatment of George Floyd or people who have issues with SPD who did this. These are professional, organized anarchists who knew, really, to be honest, how to outmaneuver the Seattle police for the last 2 days, you know? But again, we see Seattle is full of people right now who've come to clean up, who've come to get graffiti off of buildings, and who are really bringing a different narrative. You know, there's people who are here today who were peacefully protesting yesterday, and this was not the end result that they wanted. And they're back here today to clean up. You know, what happened yesterday is actually going to leave a stain on our city. It's going to build a lot of mistrust between different communities, between, you know, government and everyday people, between police and small business and everything else. And these guys leave town. I want people to know that. These guys, the majority of these people, the organizers, the people who broke out the windows, the people and everything else, they leave town. Maybe they left town tonight, maybe they'll leave town tomorrow, but they leave town. And it's up to us, the people in Seattle, to really, in a bigger sense, put these pieces back together. So, I mean, this is a very literal and figurative act that's occurring right here, because the people who can give, serve, love, huh? That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And so, you know, and I mean, this is, if there was ever a time, to be honest with you, about, especially in our community here in Seattle, for when we talk about what things are going to be like, there's an opportunity to explore what's this new normal here going to be like, and what, you know, what's this going to be. And I will say this, following and reporting on anarchist events here in Seattle for the last 4 years, these guys never pay a price. You know, even last night, all the way till midnight, we saw lots of flashbangs. I've never inhaled so much tear gas in my life, but we didn't see a lot of arrests. And until, you know what I'm saying, there's a price to pay for people who come into our city, for people who want to to basically co-opt a peaceful movement until there's a price to pay, until there's actually a lot of arrests, until there's people in jail and things like that, then man, this is going to continue to happen here. And people who want to, this is right here is a police issue, but Seattle's full of all kinds of issues where people want to come out and peacefully protest. And I mean, something literally has to be done to put some pressure on this, man. You know, Andre Taylor, Willard Jimerson, community organizations, Africatown, all these people, man, so many of the black pastors all came together yesterday, and the peaceful protest was just that. You know, this is something different. This was not connected to our community. I want to be clear on that. What you see here, these people had no connection to our community. None. This is the end result, though. So just wanted to give everybody a shot of like what's going on down right now in downtown Seattle. Like I said, there's lots of people that are cleaning up. The cruisers are gone. The windows where a lot of the rioting happened was boarded up. I'm sure people could use a hand. So if you're watching this, you know what I'm saying? There's still a lot of stuff to be done down here. And man, hopefully there's a good plan in place for tonight. And like I said, in our interviews with this anarchist element, this is exactly what they said they wanted to do on Friday night. People should understand this wasn't random. This wasn't sporadic. This was well organized. We saw that on Friday down in the International District when they all broke down into small cells and went to go into to vandalize and destroy things. This was an organized tactic by this anarchy group, and this is the end result. You know what I'm saying? Seattle, yes, this happened in our city. So as they say, we have to own it, but we need to realize that the city of Seattle was infiltrated by people with a totally different agenda than ours. You know, it's been infiltrated for the last 2 nights over here. SPD's on the corner here. And, you know, let's hope that tonight, you know, there's some tactics that are in place to be able to keep the people who clearly came here for violence, clearly came here to co-opt the peaceful movement, clearly came here to destroy, that, man, they can't do that tonight. And, you know, I'm not a police tactician, but I do know that, you know, some kind of tactics need to be put into place, because otherwise, this is what we're going to be known for. This is it. This is already the headline, the national story, everything else. So, I can say this, that at least right now, this is the first day. It feels good to breathe fresh air this morning from all the tear gas yesterday and the flashbangs. But yeah.
Okay, I heard you talking to the other guys at Salisbury. We work within the parks department.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So we wanted to come down here. I've been covering this for the last 2 days. I'm a member of the media, and on Friday down in the International District, we saw that this was very organized. We saw that this was very organized, and they told us on Friday. I walked with a group, one of this ABAC cells, from 5th and Jackson to 7th and Pine. The police were so overwhelmed for 45 minutes, they walked 1.4 miles through downtown, tearing up everything. I saw them kick in the windows there at the King County Courthouse, the IBM building, when Brooks Brothers got looted. I mean, it was a list of the Bank of America on Jackson, everything else. And these pies were organized. They knew, pull down the cameras. They knew, break the glass here. They knew, spray paint this and that, put it. So, you know, I mean, I think it's important that people realize. People realize, yeah.
We saw people handing out goggles, saying we only want to give these people that we know are going to use them, handing out, you know, supplies to people that were down here to cause problems. And it wasn't the people that were peacefully protesting. Yeah,
the peaceful protest got co-opted, and you know, I just think it's important. We see this all across America, because if you notice the protests, when they talk about it on the news, everybody was gathering peacefully until. The until is that other element. You see what I'm saying? And you know, they're co-opting people who really want to see a change down here. So yeah. Good stuff.
Well,
Got anything to say?
For years, right?
Yeah, and
No
problem.
Nothing has changed in terms of those, right, Antifa or some of the other elements that are coming in just to destroy property.
well, the city of Seattle, the anarchists have never paid a price.
Yeah,
I was
right.
here 2016. The city of Seattle gave up 5 miles to them, and their protest ended down in Westlake, and they got to do whatever they wanted to do. There was very few arrests and everything else. So these anarchists know every year they come here, they don't pay a price. They don't risk any arrest or anything.
In '99 they were here, right?
Yeah. In '99, there was a peaceful movement at WTO. WTO is a peaceful movement, 30,000 people at the Seattle Center. And then you got the anarchists who came through and broke out all the windows.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And it drowns out any other protest.
Right. Definitely.
This is a shame.
Definitely. Well, let's see what happens. We'll see if they got a plan for tonight. You know?
Have you heard anything?
Yeah, I mean, so last night they're like, yeah, we'll be out tonight. Friday night though, they said this was exactly what they were going to do as they were destroying the International District. Because, like I said, I walked with that cell for 45 minutes, just asking questions for 45 minutes. And, you know, they said they were going to come out on Saturday, and this is what they were going to do. Last night, they said that tonight they're coming back out. And so it's really going to be like, what's the tactic that SPD has?
Yeah. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here for now. But this is the scene in downtown Seattle. Like I said, it's a lot of people who have who've come down here to remove graffiti, to clean up and everything else. And let's just see how long it stays.